Good morning, and thank you everyone for being here today. I'm County Executive Dow Constantine. In the wake of the pandemic, our sense of safety and security has eroded as we've seen an increase in crime, in specifically gun violence, as well as in behavioral health crises in our region and across our nation. Public safety is multifaceted, and that is certainly true, maybe particularly true here at King County. Today we have 5 department directors who work across parts of the public safety system. And this is only some of those in King County who are responsible for ultimately our delivery of public safety. Our job is to ensure that help is available when and where you need it, with a set of trained responders who are most appropriate to support the person calling and the situation they're in. Now, importantly, each department represented here today is working closely with community-based organizations. These trusted organizations with deep ties to the communities they serve are critical to our collective success. Our communities need and expect and indeed deserve to have genuine and just safety. And we can have a robust public safety network that accomplishes this consistent with our values. We can break harmful cycles, turning from obsolete practices that no longer work for our residents and moving toward new models of partnership that bring about systemic change. But if we are truly to meet our goal of safe communities for everyone, we must invest in programming and in the workforce to do so. And that is why my proposed budget, which I will announce next week, will include funding to support just that. I'm looking forward to working with King County Council Member Zahalai, who is here today, and others to see these investments over the finish line. By breaking down silos across county government, by working with the community and community-based organizations, we are deploying options to keep residents safe, to provide accountability, and to tackle the root causes of crime and help rebuild lives. Together, this will restore peace of mind and confidence in our public safety system. This work happens within programming across our network, from the deep end to upstream, and everything in between. And I'm going to ask each of these department leaders to speak to some of the specifics of this proposal, and we will start with the Director of the Department of Adult and Juvenile Detention, Alan Nance. Alan.
Thank you, Executive Constantine. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Nance, and I am the Director of the Department of Adult and Juvenile Detention. I've been serving in that capacity since June of this year. We operate 2 jails, one in Seattle and one in Kent. We're responsible for the adult and community corrections programs, supervising and supporting those individuals released from custody into the community, including those on electronic home monitoring, those individuals that are within our juvenile detention facility, and of course, those individuals supervised under our community corrections. As the executive has described, a very inspiring and transformational vision for public safety in our community. I'm proud to be a part of the team that's here today as we are working toward that goal. For my department, this means providing a humane, safe, and secure jail environment that is also therapeutic, that works to address the factors that contribute to individuals landing in our custody. At the same time, we must address the potential risks of harm that some individuals pose to the rest of the community or to themselves. One of the biggest challenges that we face in our workforce as I stand here today is staffing. As with our peers across the region and throughout the nation, vacancies in essential frontline positions have grown throughout the pandemic and accelerated in the current year. This is further complicated by the fact that a significant number of jail employees in King County and elsewhere are eligible for retirement. Currently, vacancy levels hamper our ability to deliver services that our constituents deserve and that we know can be so beneficial to the folks that we have in our custody, especially as they relate to achieving the goals and objectives that we have with respect to public safety. As such, our human resources team will be working nonstop to fill the vacant positions, to bring in more talent, recruiting online and in person, and through various advertising channels. We offer hiring and referral incentives to employees, plus competitive wages and outstanding benefits as we seek out new talent. We're committed to bringing in 100 correctional officers to work in our jails over the next 2 years. Similarly, for youth in detention, we will hire 30 juvenile detention officers. By prioritizing filling these vacancies, we will be able to restore programming and booking hours at each of our facilities over the course of the next bi-ennium. As of today, our downtown Seattle jail remains open for bookings around the clock, every day of every week. We have worked to address operational issues at this facility that led to limited pauses in bookings for 3 brief periods over the summer. It's important to note that we were prepared even during those times to book people for serious and violent offenses. And in fact, we did so at the Seattle jail. At the Moline Regional Justice Center in Kent, we are open for bookings by appointment only, and that has been the case since May due to staffing shortages. We took this move to make sure that we were able to use the staffing in the most efficient manner possible. But let me also say that we looked at the data. We looked at the number of bookings that were coming into the facility and felt that we were able to accommodate the jurisdictions by appointment only. We plan to restore the booking hours fully as they were prior to the pandemic early next year. You've heard a lot about in-person visitation within our jail and the impact of the lack of visitation on the people in our custody. In-person visitation at the adult jails remains affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. We're encouraged that the numbers of newly infected individuals is going down. Our current staffing situation has also been a challenge. However, we are currently working on a plan to restore visitation for community agencies to work with individuals in our custody, as well as for those individual family members who want to visit their loved ones. Separately, we continue to expand programming options for people in custody, including the exploration of technology that can be available, such as tablets containing educational materials, access to legal research, and other self-help resources. Over the course of the next biennium, the executive's budget is approved by the county council, and we don't have another COVID surge. We will be able to fully restore all visitation and adult and youth programming. And finally, let me just share our commitment to equity. We began requiring anti-racism training last year, and are now approaching 100% compliance for our entire department. And we will continue to expand these efforts into the next 2 years. It is imperative that our organization and the values that we hold align with the King County values as a community. Equally important, we must act in accordance with those values in serving the needs of the individuals that we have in our custody. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, and I'm particularly heartened to hear about the opportunity to restore services to individuals and families in detention. The sheriff's office came under my jurisdiction just in January of this year. Over the course of the last 10 years, we took on responsibility for the public defense function in the executive office. And then due to a charter amendment, I had the opportunity to appoint the new sheriff. And Sheriff Petticoat-Tyndall is here to share how our law enforcement efforts will improve by the investments we're announcing in the coming week.
Good morning. I'm Sheriff Petticoat-Tyndall, and I'd like to welcome you to the city of Burien and our precinct 4. Burien is one of our 12 contract cities. They contract for law enforcement service with the King County Sheriff's Office, and Burien also serves as the host for Precinct 4, which focuses on southwest unincorporated King County. I want to thank Executive Constantine for his commitment to building a coordinated public safety framework. And to my other department directors, I say welcome to the public safety team. The King County Sheriff's Office is determined to provide a well-staffed law enforcement agency with the best training, policies, and procedures to support genuine public safety for all residents in King County. Part of being a successful law enforcement agency is having the necessary staff, and that's both our commissioned staff and our professional staff. To effectively respond to incidents and provide transparency for our actions. And being well-staffed will also allow the Sheriff's Office to continue to build strong relationships with community and community-based organizations. In order to meet this need and support the executive's public safety vision, we have developed a recruitment plan to bring on over 70 deputies over the next 2 years. I'm happy to report that our recruitment efforts are already working. Already in 2022, we have hired 50 new deputies, and that's nearly 30% more than the same period for 2021. Improvements in recruitment will allow us to staff our streets while also providing additional units tasked to respond to specific community concerns. Since the beginning of 2022, we've had almost 500 firearm incidents throughout King County. Executive Constantine has proposed investing $2 million to add deputies to our major crimes unit and create a new unit focused on reducing gun violence. Together, these investments will enable our officers to help interrupt the cycle of gun violence. The proposed budget also ensures that every deputy will have anti-racism training and specialized skills training, including de-escalation that will exceed the state standards. In addition to new staffing and training, the Sheriff's Office will continue to build on our history of law enforcement innovation. For over 5 years, we've been partnering with local jurisdictions on co-response programs, pairing mental health professionals with first responders to improve emergency outcomes. We know from our earliest work in Shoreline and Burien that co-responder models keep both the community and deputies safe while connecting those in crisis with the services they need to thrive. If Executive Constantine's proposal is passed by the County Council, We will continue to build and expand these programs thanks to $1.1 million to add 4 additional co-responder units over the next 2 years. This will ensure we have co-responder units in every region that we serve. I'm excited that as our office has transitioned to report to Executive Constantine, it's given me and my deputies a chance to work more closely with other departments seen here today, particularly Public Health and Community and Human Services. This coordination is helping to break down silos and stereotypes, identifying new opportunities for partnership and strengthening the county's safety response. Finally, as I have mentioned many times before, my top priority is ensuring community trust and transparency. Building and maintaining that trust takes focused effort. Part of that effort for the Sheriff's Office will be deploying body-worn cameras for all patrol deputies. I want to thank Executive Constantine for including $5 million in his proposed budget to provide all patrol deputies with body-worn cameras and related training by the end of 2025. The Sheriff's Office is excited to be an integral member of the county's public safety plan and to realize our ongoing objective of being a premier law enforcement agency. We will need the help of both state and federal government. Only by partnering with government at all levels can we achieve our policy and funding objectives. And to that point, we have a recent success. I want to thank Congresswoman Kim Schreier for securing a federal appropriation of $1 million each for body-worn cameras and co-responder programs. These early wins are just the beginning. We are eager to keep these partnerships so we can scale up our successful programs. Thank you again, and I look forward to working with everyone here on these programs.
Thank you, Sheriff. And of course, I've been talking for a while about my desire to have us have body-worn cameras for our officers. The federal help is very much welcome, and I'm looking forward to us being able to piece by piece roll that program out. But the key is accountability and transparency, as well as working with communities, not simply showing up when a call is placed, but continually working with communities and community-based organizations and across agencies to ensure genuine community safety. One of those agencies that the Sheriff mentioned is Public Health, and it's my privilege to introduce to most of you probably for the first time our new Public Health Director, Dr. Faisal Khan. He can speak to Public Health's role in supporting community safety. Dr. Khan.
Thank you, County Executive. Good morning. I'm very grateful to be here and to join you for my very first press briefing on this critically important issue. I want to thank all my colleagues across various departments for the amazing and exemplary work that's being done in King County. This is a shining example for the rest of the country to follow. And I'll talk about how some of our efforts have received critical acclaim nationwide, including praise from the White House as an exemplary program. In public health, we believe in bringing a prevention mindset to all issues that confront us. Public safety intersects with public health at so many levels, both individual as well as at the family and neighborhood level. I'd like to share briefly with you two specific examples of the innovative approach that we're taking as part of the County Executive's Public Safety Plan. One pertains to regional gun violence prevention, in which $9 million are being invested as part of the County Executive's budget. There are three specific approaches that are part of this program. The first is the Critical Incident Response Program, which literally deploys staff, once managers are notified by law enforcement officials about gun violence in the community and shooting incidents. The second is a bedside intervention in hospital settings to develop a rapport between the victims of gun violence and public health professionals, who then help link them with the community services they need to stop falling down this spiral. The third is strategic hotspot remediation, which looks at updated ShotSpot data to identify locations where gun violence interruption strategies need to be focused. The White House has recognized this particular approach as a model program for the rest of the country. Our jail health division is involved in another innovative program called Community Diversions, which is an effort to prevent low-level offenders and individuals with first-time felonies from spiraling down this pathway. This does not include individuals who are repeat felons or who have been charged with serious crimes. I want to make that clear. This is focused on individuals who actually have a path out of the situation they find themselves in. I want to emphasize once again that this program will only be successful with a cross-departmental effort, which is why I'm so proud to note, as the county executive pointed out, cross-departmental effort county-wide to focus on this. Individuals who don't live up to their commitments as part of this program can be referred back to prosecution. Over the next 2 years, we hope to have 2,000 referrals from the prosecuting attorney's office to help individuals use alternative pathways to avoid repeat offense. This will not be a sprint, it will be a marathon. It is worth the effort, it is worth the investment, and I'm very proud to say that the Department of Public Health stands in proud support of all efforts across the county. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Khan, and welcome aboard. We're pleased to have you, and your focus and public health's focus on community partnerships and on responding to data is parallel to the work that's going on at King County Metro, working with communities, understanding from the data where the need is. And Metro's Deputy General Manager, Michelle Allison, is here to share more about the work that we can do to ensure safety and security on Metro Transit vehicles. If we have a challenging community, we are bound to see that same challenge in transit. And so we are focused on making sure that we rebuild our ridership after COVID and that we are able to continue on as one of the nation's leading public transit agencies. Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you, Executive Constantine, and also to all my partners throughout the county for your support on this incredibly important topic. Metro, one of the core tenets at Metro is safety, both for our employees and for the public we serve. Continuing to develop programs that emphasize a safe experience for our employees and for the riders, not just while they're on the bus, but through their whole journey, is of paramount importance to us. We cannot do it alone. We thank our partnership with the Sheriff's Office and our Metro Transit Police for their support in this effort, as well as the communities who we're partnering with to develop really groundbreaking, innovative programs and community-based organizations to inform us in how we do this work. For the past 2 years, we've engaged with more than 8,000 community members to inform a safety, security, and fair enforcement reform initiative. In the budget, there is over $5 million to help fund pilot programs related to the feedback that we heard from the public. Some of the feedback that we heard, and we've primarily focused on BIPOC and other priority populations, was very clear, a very resounding expression for us to show up in the community. The importance of us to have presence. We want people to have confidence in our system. And that also means we need to have presence. And how we show up is equally important. Folks made it clear how important it is that Metro and our partners show up in the right way. This means that when we enter a mental health crisis with a similar situation, we need resource and not force. This means we prioritize de-escalation when it's the safest approach. Every Metro employee is going through de-escalation training at this moment. It also means that Metro is doing the work ahead of time with the community to be fully culturally competent and maintain those relationships, as the executive mentioned, over time and not just as an episode occurs. As the executive noted, the budget also includes $20 million for an additional 50 transit security officers, bringing us to 140 officers throughout our system. Transit security officers are deployed where our data shows that we need to invest in those resources. These folks act as a deterrent and provide support for our customers and our colleagues. Also in the executive safety plan, Metro will fund community-based organizations and partnerships with the Department of Community and Human Services to a tune of $5 million to do critical, proactive work, not just in Seattle, but throughout King County. This will specifically help people in crisis who are on Metro Transit, in our bus stops, or our transit centers. These investments reflect the county and Metro's commitment not only to a safe community, but also to equity and treating everyone with dignity and respect. We thank our partners as we're developing these programs, and we thank the community who are joining us in support of these innovative approaches.
Thank you, Deputy General Manager Allison. She mentioned a program that connects people whom we encounter in transit with our Department of Community and Human Services. And that is, I guess, an example of what I'm talking about when I talk about breaking down silos. We cannot simply address any of these challenges with a single function, like policing, for example. We need to make sure that we are coordinating, working with the neighborhoods in which we operate, and ultimately getting to the root causes of challenges, what's going on in people's lives that's causing problems in our community. The director of our Department of Community and Human Services is Leo Floor.
Thank you, Mr. Executive, and good morning. What I'd like to do is talk quickly about the pattern that we see in the programs that are most effective to establish community health and well-being, and our understanding that those are essential components of community safety. So at the Department of Community and Human Services, we do all of our work in partnership with providers and with communities, and we depend upon that model to do some of our most effective change out in the community. There are 3 programs that I'd like to talk about that take that principle and that are going to show up in or alongside the executive's budget. One, the Restorative Community Pathways Program. This is a program where we ask the people who are and have been involved in the youth legal system what would be more effective for them. We partner with them and with other parts of the county, including the prosecuting attorney's office, and we then deliver programming for 850 youth so that we can keep them in systems that have lower rates of recidivism than incarceration and have higher rates of participation and a feeling of belonging for the participants that we expect to be members of our community for a long time. We're really proud of that program and expect to invest another $7.3 million in the executive's proposed budget. Another example is the VITAL program. The VITAL program identifies folks who would otherwise be incarcerated or prosecuted and provides them with access to case management, treatment, and housing so that they can get out of the cycle that has had them coming back and forth between the community and the legal system, and instead keep them sustainably and durably in the community. And we'll be expanding that program with a total proposed investment of $2.1 million to add another 20 participants to that program. And then finally, we know that it is the absence of some critical behavioral health care resources in our community that is leading a lot of folks that law enforcement officers would like to provide with a more therapeutic option, that community members would like to provide with a more therapeutic option, and that families would like to provide with a more therapeutic option. And alongside the executive's budget, he'll be sending a proposal that I think is a generational opportunity to invest in crisis care centers, the ability to send folks where they can get behavioral health care for issues that are manifesting as crises before they turn into the types of situation where we're left to use approaches that depend on incarceration. And that's a big proposal that we're excited about. I'll leave it to the executive to share details of that in the coming week, but we do expect that to be what I think is a generational investment.
Thank you, Leo. Safety requires collaboration and a multifaceted approach. I hope I've made it clear. That's my point today. We have to come at this from many different angles if we're going to achieve genuine community safety. And as I send my budget to the council next week, I really appreciate having people on the council who take a measured and sophisticated approach to this complex work. In particular, the chair of the Law, Justice, Health, and Human Services Committee, I'm counting on to help us as we move forward with this conversation over the course of the next 2 months. It's my honor to introduce Councilmember Gurmai Zahmani.
Thank you so much, Executive Constantine, and as always, thank you so much to our partners in the media for helping us get important information out to our community. We really appreciate you. Public safety has to be the top priority for any local government, and despite what some might tell you, there is no simple fix for all of the unprecedented challenges that our region is facing. We're facing staffing crises, a behavioral health crisis, a housing crisis, a pandemic, massive court backlogs, and all of these issues are feeding into and exacerbating one another. So to create sustainable public safety, all of us need to work together. We need to grapple with these serious issues and come up with thoughtful solutions. We need collaboration, creativity, root cause analysis, and I believe the themes that we've been hearing today across all of these different departments push the ball forward. They address the staffing issues that severely limit our ability to respond to various types of challenges. They address the behavioral health crisis by beginning the process of establishing a network of crisis care centers that Leo was talking about. I think that is critical. It is a generational investment, as he said. They prioritize community needs during times when people are really, really struggling. As Chair of Law and Justice, I commit to engaging in this work thoughtfully, working with all our regional partners to advance public safety. And as a member of the King County Council, we're in the middle of our biennial budget process, where what we will be once the executive transmits his proposed budget at the end of this month. But through that system, I know that every single one of my colleagues has public safety at the top of their minds. It is one of the top priorities for every single one of us, and we look forward to collaborating with all of our department directors and the executive and all of you to making us live in a safe, healthy neighborhood. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Council Member. So we've said a lot today, but it is really just the tip of the iceberg. There are other entire agencies that are not represented here today, but are an important part of this equation as well. Public defense, prosecutor, courts. We have an opportunity before us to not only address the immediate need, but to set an example, and I find myself saying this quite a bit, but set an example for other jurisdictions of how to achieve true community safety consistent with our values. So I or any of our department directors, experts, would be happy to take any questions on that.
Mr. Executive, as you know, there's a real concern about fentanyl use on metro buses, and I saw the investments here in transit security and also in some of the proactive work. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to how you're addressing that, specifically what people should expect in terms of some improvement there, how long it might take.
Okay. So this is a perfect example of one of those challenges that is at the intersection of many of our agencies. It's Metro Transit, it's the Sheriff's Office, it's also a tremendous public health crisis. Fentanyl in the streets, which, as I say, the challenges we have in community often show up on transit as well. So I think because she's wearing the badge, I will turn to Sheriff Bull Tyndall first to address it.
Well, you know what I'm gonna do? I have my Chief of Metro Transit Police, Jose Marenco, and I think he can better answer the question about what we're going to be doing. Jose, come up, please. On you're right, drug usage on transit has been an issue. Chief, do you have something you can say?
Yeah, thank you. Basically what, we're working collaboratively with Metro Transit, the prosecutor's office, the jails, and public health to try to address some of the issues. We're trying to get ahead of that now in terms of right now we've really worked well with the security and Metro to reduce the numbers, but hopefully we'll be able to address some of those issues as the winter months come and more of that movement comes on to transit. So we're hoping to get ahead of it. We're working on it right now in terms of having a collaborative response to that issue.
And as a reminder, this was mentioned earlier, in addition to the Sheriff's Office also being the police force for Metro Transit across all jurisdictions, my budget adds 50 more security officers, so non-police security officers. And so I think that brings the total, is it 120? 140 for those security officers. So that is a significant increase in the eyes and ears on the transit system.
Obviously, there's a lot of focus on diversion, alternatives to incarceration. If you do have enough officers to meet your quota at the corrections facilities, will you lift restrictions on what charges can be booked, what people can be booked at the jail, as well as keeping the population artificially down?
So right now, about a quarter, this is very rough, about a quarter of the bookings are felonies, about a quarter misdemeanors, and almost half are people who are being brought in to investigate probable cause and then being released. And a very large percentage of folks are released within the first day, 2 or 3 days. We have 2 constraints. One is staffing, and that's the same staffing constraint you have at your local cafe where they suddenly hang up a sign saying they're gonna have to be closed because they don't have enough people. This is a society-wide challenge. I will tell you that the new detention contract provides a significant increase in pay, and that this is a very attractive option, and I'm always recruiting. So anyone who is interested, please contact us. We would love to get you connected with those who are doing the hiring at DAJD. But the other constraint is COVID, and we continue to comply with CDC requirements around preventing infection in our detention facilities. Now, as was mentioned earlier, we're seeing positive trends, and it's my hope that that will be less of a constraint as time goes on. The two actually work together, because if we have more personnel, we can use more of the available space to keep people appropriately distanced in the facilities and to run more of the kinds of programs like family visitation in a way that is safe. But as soon as we have the opportunity to do so, we will, of course, relax the remaining restrictions on booking, which are not particularly significant, but still exist.
Question for Director Nance.
Sorry.
You mentioned hiring 30 new juvenile detention officers, but what I've heard is that the issue isn't so much hiring as retention. There's, with the hiring bonuses, there's a 3-year commitment which goes beyond the length at which the jail is supposed to close. Is anything happening on the retention front to actually keep officers in those jobs?
Absolutely, and thank you for the question. We recognize that not only do we need to do a better job recruiting quality folks to work with our young people in custody, but we also have to work diligently to implement strategies to keep the employees that we have today. So we've been negotiating some conditions and favorable incentives for existing employees for that very reason, recognizing that for those individuals who have already made the commitment to stay at the detention facility through 2025, that those individuals deserve an opportunity to work in an environment where they are valued, where they are well compensated, and where we go above and beyond wherever we possibly can to support their continued employment in the department. And so we're in the process of finalizing some additional incentives for those employees for that very reason, recognizing that retention has to be part of the solution.
And real quick follow-up, will that include eliminating mandatory overtime or alleviating it a little bit?
The goal is certainly to alleviate mandatory overtime. I don't anticipate that we'll ever eliminate it, but thank you for mentioning that. We definitely intend to reduce over-reliance on mandatory overtime and in fact, incentivize individuals to voluntarily work overtime.
I don't know if this is best for Director Nance or Executive Constantine, but you mentioned that within the next biennium and, depending on COVID conditions, you would reinstate in-person visitation and group programming at the jails. Is there any firmer deadline? There's been a surge in suicides at the jails. The suicide rate was described as astronomical. Is just sometime within the next 2 years? Is that still what we're looking at for these activities?
I think we're a lot sooner than that. I've been working diligently in the last 2 months with our staff to identify opportunities to bring in folks who can work with individuals who have substance use disorders, to have the ability to have individuals who are providing linkage and support connections when people get out of custody. And I'm very optimistic that we will have those in place before the end of this year.
Body cameras, why wait till end of 2025 to have them all deployed and trained? It's 3.5 years from now.
Well, first of all, I will say that I'm pleased that we are currently in positive negotiations with our Sheriff's Guild, and that is one of the steps in being able to move forward with this. I'm pleased that we have federal funding as well as the county funding that I'm proposing in the budget. It is more complicated, as in most things, more complicated than you would think to get these deployed, and I'll let the sheriff speak with this.
Thank you. So that's a great question. We are a large department, and so as the executive just explained, we have several steps in the process. One is completing collective bargaining with the unions. Then the implementation, we need to think about how we would roll this out to be effective. And so what we have decided to do is that we would be rolling it out one precinct at a time. The end of 25 is the end goal. It's very likely we will be able to complete this prior to that, but we have a plan to do this. We're looking like if we precinct 4 here, say we have 100 officers, it's gonna take us a while. We need to train people. We also need to continue to staff patrol. So trying to get the training in while doing our regular work isn't always that easy. But I expect before that date, we would be fully implemented.
Is the $5 million plus the previous federal $1 million, is that sufficient to cover the body camera program?
It's expensive. We have estimates. That's our initial estimate that should cover the startup. Because remember, with body cams, the big thing is the storage of the actual footage. Plus, we have to hire 8 professional staff, we have estimated based on what SPE told us they did when they implemented the program for a public disclosure unit because of all the additional requests that will be coming in. So,
Why is King County behind on this? Other departments have already figured this out.
well, that's a great question. I mean, we are the largest sheriff's office in the state and 3rd largest police agency. Prior sheriffs have tried to get this program going. Our last sheriff, Sheriff Joe Hantnick, was committed to this, as was the sheriff before that, John Urquhart. It just takes time. And because this is a state where employees are represented, we have to complete collective bargaining. And we are, as the executive said, very close on this. And our deputies want cameras. And so I think the time is right for cameras because our deputies actually want them. The community expects us to have them, so that accountability and transparency piece, it is just, it's happening now, and I think that's the important thing.
Executive Constantine, Interim Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz expressed public safety concerns if your homeless megaplex comes into the Soto neighborhood because they're down officers. So is the Chinatown International District community. What is the public safety plan for this Soto homeless megaplex?
So I'm pleased to have the question. We have a 270 unit, 24-hour day enhanced shelter in Soto right now. And we proposed in November an expansion of the services there to include not only additional beds, but the ability to bring people in who have acute behavioral health challenges and get them moving forward into treatment or placement in permanent supportive housing to get them off the streets. They can't stay in that facility right now because we don't have that level of service for people who have acute challenges. Public safety is obviously a concern across downtown Seattle as it is across our region, and we've been working closely with the Mayor's office, and we'll be working closely with the Seattle Police Department as well as with our Metro Transit Police to ensure that we have the appropriate level of security, not only in Soto, but around any part of the county that's experiencing a disproportionate share of homelessness. Now, I will say this, we began the public outreach on this in March, and it's clear that although we did outreach in the Soto neighborhood as well as the adjacent neighborhoods of Pioneer Square and the Chinatown International District, that was not enough. So we are continuing to work to share information. We're continuing to work to listen to residents and business owners. The changes to this facility, the additional services would not open until the end of the year at the earliest. So there is a lot of time still for that conversation to take place. But let me be clear, we are working urgently to bring people in off the streets. We cannot tolerate having people languish on the streets, especially as behavioral health challenges increase. And so whether it's working along the Green River Valley, where there are many hundreds of people living homeless right now, or whether it is working in North Seattle, where we've been able to open a new health through housing facility and bring people in off the streets, or whether it's working in Soto and Pioneer Square and the Chinatown International District, we are absolutely focused on partnering with Mayor Harrell and others to get folks off the street and to prevent them from coming back onto the street. Erica.
This may be a question for Leo, I'm not sure, but the county's website says that the encampment at that location in Soto will be resolved. And I don't believe that's happening through Just Care or KCRHA. Can you talk about what the plan is for the encampment in Soto?
Absolutely. So the question refers to what is right now an encampment that is part of what will eventually become the Soto Hub, which is the addition of 150 spaces to the existing 270-person shelter and the preservation of that 270-person shelter. Without this, that shelter would actually close without replacement, and those 270 people, 90 of whom have jobs, would lose the place that they sleep every night. So when we take a look at the encampment, I think this is a perfect example. Some of the folks in that encampment actually came from the shelter. They've got behavioral health conditions that we need a different type of solution for. And just like the subject today has been, you need partnership, we also know that you need variety of services to be able to really help the variety of circumstances that people experience. So we will work with the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. The county does not resolve or clear an encampment inside the city of Seattle. But the King County Homelessness Authority will do that work, and our goal is to provide on-site the enhanced shelter and then behavioral health enhanced shelter that we can offer to folks that are currently living outside. I see Matt in the room, who did an interview within that encampment that I thought did a really nice job of highlighting the fact those are people who are looking for a place to live, and they don't have one right now. And so we're gonna do this in a way that provides them a place where they can go, where they can receive services, and they can stay inside, and that takes that larger piece of property that we will add the 150 spaces to, and turns it into the type of services hub that we think is really important in our regional approach and our local approach to changing the conditions that people are observing right now.
Many of the Chinatown idea are asking for a 6-month moratorium on this. Would you consider that, Mr. Floor? For moving ahead with this project?
Last question.
Yeah, so when we take a look at this project, as the executive said, the earliest that any new use is going to start is the end of this year, and then the new uses, which are behavioral health services, enhanced shelter, will continue to open up over the course of early next year. We are meeting today with members of the Chinatown International District community. I will keep meeting with members of the Chinatown International District community, and anybody who is going to come to those conversations and talk about how we can provide community safety. A community is composed both of its housed and its unhoused members. How we can provide community safety working together. I look forward to those conversations, and I think we have a lot of things that we can adjust, change, and form with community engagement going forward, and I'm excited about that process over the next couple months.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.